Hey guys, I hope you have a great day. My name is Matt Singers from realestateVA2hire.com. Today is all about buyer and seller lead automation on Craigslist and learn how to get it done for you. That means you don't have to move a finger. Now, first topic is around how to find keywords. What is keywords? Really, keywords is about the key phrases that you search for on the likes of Craigslist to find the specific homes that you're looking for. So as you can see here on the first slide, I already have a couple of examples in the bottom of seller specific keywords. So that will be keywords that match properties that we're looking to sell. So in this case, it could be cash offers only, developer, handyman, lots of work, major fixer. So many of our customers today, they're real estate investors and they may be looking to flip a house or flip houses, and these are typically some of the words that they would use when they're searching around on Craigslist. And we also have some buyer keyword examples. And what is buyer keyword examples? Really, when you're looking at Craigslist and in general, when you're looking around, you're not just looking for seller leads, because seller leads are key. So that's what provides you leads to sell. But it's also critical that you quickly can get hold of some buyers when you actually found some property that's worth selling. And you can find those on Craigslist as well. And this is based on the buyer keyword example. Some of them would be remodeled, so that's people that have already remodeled houses, redone, renovated, rehabbed, or turnkey. So that's words that really are aimed towards more the landlords, and it's words that really simplify some of the terms that people that have already done the investment and have done the sort of rehabbing of the house would use when they're selling the house. Okay, and this is really the main thing around keywords. Now, you can probably find a lot more keywords yourself, and you probably have a bunch of keywords that you use. I definitely recommend that you actually make a list both of the seller keywords and buyer keywords, because both for if you have other staff to do it for you, or if you outsource it at one point, it's great to have it all written down, and likewise you don't forget some of the phrases that you have had success with in the past. Second, now this is about going to Craigslist and finding sellers. Now, but here I've just taken a couple of screenshots for you so you can see exactly how the process works from our point of view. Now, first you go to Craigslist.org and you select the city and the area that's relevant to your real estate business. So in this case, for example, we have selected Iowa City. And what you do is you go and click at the real estate for sale, as you can see, been marked in red, and then you'll get to the next part, which is where you can actually select the specific real estates that you're looking for. Now, as you can see up in the top here, it's selected Iowa City housing, and then initially it's set to real estate for sale. Now, if you're looking for seller keywords, you want to always select the real estate by owner. And the reason for that is obviously if you go and look at the broker houses, there you're a lot less likely to find a good deal there, where the deals that are set up by the owners themselves, you're a lot more likely to find some good deals and people that are willing to sell at some lower prices. Okay, likewise, as you can see over on the left side here, you have a bunch of criteria. Now, I always recommend for people to set some criteria in stone. Now, it's obviously best when you have a good idea what you're looking for, but for most people, they have a type of house that they usually look for, and that could be I don't know, 2 to 4 bedroom house with 2 to 3 bathrooms, for example, and it could be between a minimum and a maximum price. Now, I suggest you always enter those. I've seen a lot of people that spend a lot of time on Craigslist because they always sit and look at every deal and try and justify to themselves why they should make an exception and buy the house for more than they really normally would. I really suggest have some set in stone things that you just go for, right? If you don't buy houses for more than 800,000, just don't look at the houses above 800,000. If you're looking for houses with a certain foundation, then only buy those houses, right? But set some criteria, again, both for yourself, but likewise when you want to scale your business and need a higher in-house staff or outsource, then those criteria and really those terms and how you manage your process is really going to be so much easier when you have a set process. Next up, when you've selected the real estate by owner, you then enter the specific keywords that you want to look for in the search term, which is the yellow field just behind the box here. Now, in this case, we used the keyword handyman, so we've seen a lot of handyman deals that have been quite good deals. And what you'd usually do is if you hold down control when you see the different examples, if you hold down the control key and then click on each of them, what will happen is they will each open in a new window for you, and basically that new separate window will allow you to review the houses much faster. If you click at each house then have to go back, remember where you were, it end up taking a lot longer going through them. So for most computers, as long as you have a decent computer, you should be able to open at least 10 or even 20 results at a time, and that will mean you can get them all to load, and then you can just sit and go through them and check your criteria against the specific properties. So that's a good way of doing it. Next up, so as you can see here, we're looking through one of the interesting properties. Now, when you find a property that you feel match your criteria, right? So it have the number of bedrooms, bathroom, it's within a certain price range, or at least you feel you can potentially push it down to a price range that you're interested in, then go ahead and either email or text the person. I generally recommend email, but you can actually send text messages on some of the ads as well if they have the phone as a potential reply option. Now in this case we'll just select the Gmail as the reply option, and we'll come back to a bit later how to actually set up your Gmail very effectively for dealing with these responses so that you can reply to a bunch of people at very, very quick speed. So when you've done that for each of the keywords, you basically you repeat the process for each of the keywords. So you start out with one of them, so in this case handyman, and you just go through your list until you've gotten through all the different keywords that you have. Next up is the seller follow-up. Now, this is one that's not necessarily tied to Craigslist, but I love using this as a strategy. Now, the seller follow-up is really about picking up sellers that you have written emails to in the past. So if you've had emails sent to sellers, they have maybe given you a price that have been slightly too high. So let's say in the past you tried to get a property for 50k and the seller wasn't willing to sell for any less than 60. Now you want to try and stay in touch with that person, because while they might not be able and willing to sell for 50 today, it could be they will be in that position in a month or even in a week sometimes. So you really want to get in contact with them again. Now, one of the things you can do that's very effective is called retargeting ads, and you can do those, for example, on Facebook. So if you have a list of email addresses for people that were previously interested, or you're looking to perhaps buy a house from, you can actually add that list of email addresses to your Facebook ads campaign and do a retargeting campaign, which means your specific ad will only show up against those individuals. So if any of those individuals are using that specific email address on their Facebook, they will basically see your ad showing up a bunch of times, and you really want that as a reminder to them. If they ever feel, oh, I'm in the position and I want to sell for the price, you want them to then come back to you and not go to one of your competitors. So the retargeting ads can be very, very effective with that. I'll show you in the end of this presentation the different contact options, but again, if you have any questions, it's a good idea to write them down along the way. Next up we look at how to find buyers. Now, finding buyers is something not many real estate people do when it comes to Craigslist. Most people are just focused on finding sellers, but it, particularly in the beginning, it's really key for you to find some buyers, whether it's investors or the likes of landlords that could perhaps take over properties that you're trying to flip. It's really key to have a list, because when you get your first or second or 10th property for sale, if you don't manage to find the buyers, you're no better off, right? So you want to always be in a position where you have buyers or have a connection to buyers, and Craigslist for me is a great way to find those. So similar to as what you did with the sellers, you would go to Craigslist, you'll search in a certain term, and you'll basically just use different keywords, right? So you'll use here some of the seller focus keywords. And again, this is an example of a potential seller, right? Now, the seller keywords, as we said, would be like redone, rehabbed house, and the likes, even the turnkey as an example. And what you really want to do is you really want to reply to them either again with text or a email, preferably from Gmail. And really, what you want to do is you want to ask them quite specifically, uh, just to kick off the conversation, say, hey, is this house still available? So first of all, you're looking to see if it's still available. Now, often with that, I would add a small bit of text just saying, are you the owner, or is it with an agent? Just to try and understand if it's the owner themselves you're talking with. What you can also do that's very effective is ask them specifically if they are a real estate investor. So if you say, are you the owner as an investor, or what's your story? So again, in an email you can add a little bit more text to it. If it's text, it could be worth just starting out saying, is the property available? And if it comes back as a yes, you can then follow up and say, are you a real estate investor? What you're looking for is really just to start a conversation with some investors so that you actually have some contact details for some of those, right? Now, if it is an investor and that's trying to sell, then just do the follow up with them, and if they come back and say, yeah, I'm a real estate investor, then you can put together a decent email response that basically look at saying, hey, if you're an investor, we sometimes have property for sale. Would it be okay if I include you in the special VIP email list that I send out when we have a property? Most people, particularly investors, would be happy to hear about that. Likewise, as well, landlords that have a bunch of properties. So some landlords have 10, 20 properties, and they're obviously always on the lookout for good deals to add to their stash. So those kind of owners and investors would be good as well. Now, for Gmail, the reason why we recommend Gmail is you can set up a lot of things that will make your process and make everything a lot easier for you to manage. Now, you can set up either a separate email account at your current website, so that could be peterpan at mywebsite.com, and you can actually link that to your Gmail account. You can also just create a separate Gmail account for this. And the key thing you really want to make sure is when you sign up to sites like Craigslist, and there's a bunch of other sites that you'll see in the end of this presentation, but when you sign up to those, you really want to use a separate email, right? You want to try and keep these buyer and seller leads you have in just one email box and not mess it up with all your regular emails that you get. So that's why I always recommend people setting up a separate account specific for these lead gatherings. Now, first of all, you can add a bunch of lab extensions. Now, the reasons why you want to do that is basically to enable additional Gmail skills and Gmail abilities, right? So, as we say here in the presentation, you can actually connect your Google Voice to your Gmail. So Google Voice is usually very easy to set up, and you can use that to send the text messages from. And really what you want to do is you want to use the Google Voice uh, to send the messages from, so that you actually have a track of any text messages you send along with your emails. So they'll show up like your conversation, and you'll basically be able to track the text messages and the responses. And again, that helps you track your buyer and seller leads, and what's happening with those. So first of all, when you go to Gmail, up in the right hand corner you have this wheel, and when you press on that you have the settings options. When you press the settings, you have a bunch of different tabs here, and the one you want to go to and enable is the one called labs. And in the labs you'll get a bunch of options that you'll see here on the next slide. Now there is a bunch of different lab extensions, but the three that you want to get hold of is the one called the canned response. And the reason why the canned response is very effective is that you can basically do email templates, right? So if you, for your seller leads, for example, if you always send people the same specific text and saying, hey, Mr. Customer, I saw your property on Craigslist. Is it still available? And then maybe below you have a message saying, oh, are you, by the way, are you the seller, or are you the owner of the property, or are you a real estate agent, for example? Um, if you have some of those responses, you can basically create what's called canned responses. But those canned responses really help you speed up this process significantly, so that you can have some templated responses that you can just go in and select, instead of actually rewriting a mail every single time. If you have about 4 or 5 different templates, you'll only need to open the individual message in the Gmail from Craigslist, and you basically just need to select the standard response and then send the email. Very simple, and particularly when you're sending out emails to a large amount of people, that can save you a significant amount of time. The next one is the Google Maps, and the reason why that one is great is you'll often get addresses sent to you in your email. So that could be a customer sending a specific address, for example, and when you have your Google Mail previews in the mail enabled, you'll basically see a small map. So obviously you probably know your area pretty well, but there's likely going to be places you don't know, and then it's handy to have a map straight away, so you don't have to go into Google Maps and try and figure out where the actual address is located. The last one is enabling the Google Voice Player in your mail, and that's basically, as I mentioned, to be able to track your specific either phone calls, but primarily text messages within your Gmail account. So again, that's very good to keep track of things. Next up, creating a Gmail signature is important as well. The reason why you always want to create a signature, again, it have to do with speed. So every time a customer writes you, for example, you'd always want to reply with the same signature, so that you make sure they always have your phone number and so on, in case they suddenly feel the urge to phone you. Don't let them have to go back to previous mails to try and dig out what your phone number was. Now, with a signature, there's one thing that's quite key, and that's always to include a PS. And the reason why you want to do that is you always want to push your service a little bit. So you can easily have a very effective PS that said, hey, do you still want to sell your home quickly? Or do you need to sell your home quickly? We buy houses in any condition, we pay cash, and you'll not pay any commission, agent, and or fees. Save thousand in junk fees, and work on a bona fide buyer directly. Get cash offers in 48 hours. Click on the link below. Right. So basically, you can very quickly create a signature that even if a customer don't reply back to you, they actually see your link, and ideally the link you have would be to a specific seller's landing page. Now again, you could have a signature, a different signature that you want to use for buyers, and again, it's very quick to do that. You could also do that with the likes of canned responses, so that you have the signature in the canned responses, but you want a signature as well when you're actually replying to people. So that's both key in the Gmail setup. Next up, is around phone tracking, right? So you want to always give out your phone number in the emails you have. So you want to have your phone number in the specific emails you send out to customers. Uh, Definitely the seller leads, but also perhaps the buyer leads. Now, the reason why phone number tracking is important is you want to know how many phone calls do you actually get out of your effort. So let's say you send 50 or let's say 100 mails to different Craigslist potential sales leads. You want to know how many of those actually phone you afterwards. Now, personally, I always recommend people to have a separate phone number for each lead channel. So let's say you're working both on Craigslist and a bunch of other similar sites. I would actually have a phone number for each of those sites. Now it can be a Google Voice number that goes straight to a voicemail. It could even be a Skype number with a similar function, or it could also be a yeah, you can buy phone numbers in many different places, so it could be any different phone numbers. Now, most people choose to get them to go to voicemails, and that's generally absolutely fine. You could also get them to forward automatically to your mobile phone, just to make sure that you have that you answer as many of the calls as possible. But again, if you have a good process here, it could be a lot of calls going to you. Alternatively, many of our customers have a setup where they have virtual assistants actually handling their phone, and that could also be an option instead of the voicemail to give a more personable response to your customers. So that's another option. So now for this tracking, you can use both Twilio.com and Callfire. They're both services that where you can actually track the amount of incoming calls you're getting and so on, and they give you some good statistics on when their calls are coming in and so on, and that can be quite good to use to track the data for you. Next up, we have the bonus. Now, this presentation is very focused on the Craigslist specifically, but there's a bunch of other pages, right? Most of the people I work with, they all say Craigslist, 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 but the likes of eBay, Classified, um, backpages.com, classified ads. There's a bunch of pages here that have a lot less primarily investor focus, right? So some of these sites there's a lot less competition. Again, it varies per area, but generally there's a lot less competition than there would be on the likes of Craigslist. Now, most of them obviously also have a smaller number of properties, but again, for most people, I would definitely check into these different pages and see which one of them fits into your process, right? Now, as per the next slide, we have a free webinar at the moment where you can actually get a real good look into how you can get started with real estate outsourcing. I've mentioned it a few times throughout this webinar, but really the outsourcing piece of a real estate investor business specifically is really, really key for success. There's a lot of real estate agents that use it as well with great success, but particularly when you're very small companies or when you're a one-man real estate investor, getting a virtual assistant to support you, and by the way, that can usually be done for less than $1,000 a month for a full-time person, which is significantly less than paying 3 or 4 thousand for a local person, right? And it enables you to actually start hiring staff and start growing your business much faster. So I'll include a link to this specific webinar so that you can get access to it as well. But generally, I'd really recommend you to go and have a look at this free webinar so that you can have a look at more of the details behind the real estate outsourcing. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope this has been useful for you and given you some ideas on how to work effectively with process to look in the classified ads websites. Again, I'll really look forward to see you at the realestateva2hire.com, and it will be great if you check out our webinar.